Hi. So this is my first time in New Orleans. Anybody else? I'm originally from North Dakota. And I got to tell you, I was a little worried about the weather because I don't do well in the heat. But the way this Superdome keeps the temperature, I think I'll be okay. It's such an honor to be here with you guys tonight. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share my story with you. And I got to be honest, when I was your age, which I'm assuming most around 16, 17, 18, I didn't have a lot of faith. But that all changed for me about 2 years ago. And I have to go back a little bit in time so you guys can kind of understand where I'm coming from. But I grew up in Bismarck, and I had the best life, I thought. I had awesome friends, I was pretty good at sports, pretty good at school, and I had the best family ever. One of those families that everybody's envious of, and the coolest parents, and a really cool dad. My dad would drive like 4 hours to watch me play basketball on a Tuesday night. And trust me, he wasn't coming because I had so much talent. He was great. And all that changed when I was 16 years old. I remember my father coming home. It was a hot day in July, and he asked me and my brother and sister if we could leave for a little while so we could talk to my mom and call it women's intuition. But something wasn't right, and I knew, that something was really wrong. But I left and came back in 2 hours and saw my dad sitting on the couch looking sad and somber and embarrassed. And I went and sat next to him. And my dad told me that he had a gambling problem. And unfortunately, my dad has suffered from addiction for the better part of his life. He went through drug and alcohol recovery, as you heard in the film, when I was 5 years old. So I never saw my dad drink, and I never saw my dad use any drugs. And this was the first introduction to my dad's addiction problem. And it was also my new reality, because that day my mom kicked my dad out. And my perfect life was over. And I spent the next 3 years being so angry at my mother and trying to fix my dad. And it was this vicious cycle of progress and then relapse and progress and relapse. And I really didn't know how to handle it. And it's also during that time when I really became a runner. It provided me with such strength and this invincible and comforting, I don't even know what. It made me feel vulnerable and invincible at the same time, but I wouldn't have gotten through those times without running. I didn't understand how impactful that sport would be for me later in my life, but I soon found out when I moved to Philadelphia. I moved to Philadelphia in 2005 for a job, and I worked there for about 2 years, and really wasn't excited about what I was doing anymore. I probably felt like a lot of you do right now, about you kind of feel you have this purpose, and you're really not sure what it is. And through all these years, through college and graduate school, I kept running, and it still was a healing force for me in my life. It just gave me a lot of strength, and I learned a lot about myself through running, built my confidence, the determination you have to be a runner, the commitment you have to have, those things that make you a good runner also was making me a good person. So anyway, I decided to quit my job, and I wanted to leave Philly. No offense, I really wasn't that fond of it at the time. But, then I get the booze. But so I started doing some interviewing and was actually going to go and look for a job overseas, but got approached by some big cable company to go work in their government affairs department. I thought, okay, this might be fun. So I started doing some interviewing, and I'm running every morning still. And I'm running, I start to run by this homeless shelter that's about a half-mile away from my house. And I'm taught as in North Dakota that you're supposed to smile and wave at everybody that you see, so that's what I was doing to these group of guys that I was seeing outside this shelter. And they didn't respond to me very well right away. They kind of looked at me like I must be lost, and who is this crazy girl running by us at 5 a.m. smiling and happy? But anyway, I kept running by them, and I kept waving at them, and soon enough they got comfortable with my presence that they started to wave back. And we just started to build a relationship. They would say jokes to me, and I would tell them to have a great day. And one day in June of 2007, I stopped and I looked at them and I thought, what am I doing? I'm running by these guys every single day, moving my life forward physically, emotionally, mentally, and I'm leaving them in the exact same spot. I felt like I was cheating them, and I thought, you know, again, I really do feel like running saved my life and gave me all the strength that I needed to move forward in so many other ways. And I thought, maybe you could do the same thing for them. I also saw a lot of my father in these guys. Again, my dad has struggled with his life, and I never could figure out a way to help him. And so for me, I thought, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to start a running club. So emailed the executive director of the shelter and told him my idea, and he also told me I was crazy. But he agreed to ask the guys who were staying there if they wanted to run. And fortunately, there were 9 guys that said yes. So I get an email with the name of the guys and their 9 shoe sizes, and he says, you know, what's the next step? So I email everybody I possibly have an email address for and ask for shoes, ask for clothes, and ask for money. And people were so supportive. It was pretty amazing. So on July 3rd of 2007, we had our first run. And around this same time, I get the call from Comcast, which was the cable company, and take this job offer and ask them if I can have 5 weeks to just grow and stabilize this running club that'll work when I'm not around. And they graciously said yes. So these next 5 weeks were extraordinary. Again, we had our first run on July 3rd, 2007, and then we made a commitment to run every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. And so after doing that for a couple weeks, I started to see the changes in these guys. I started to see them get excited about who they are and what can happen when you give somebody some kind of support and encourage them and tell them they're doing a good job and you're proud of them. It's like these guys have never heard those words before, and it broke my heart. I can't imagine going through life and being 40-some years old and not having someone constantly tell you that you're doing a great job or that they're there to support you. So more people started showing up in the morning, and our group of 10 grew to 15, grew to 20, grew to 25. And I started thinking that maybe this really could be a way for people to change their lives. If you combine the running with the endorphins that you get, with a positive support system, that maybe these guys can go left instead of going right. And I felt like it was my responsibility to do something about this, that it just didn't need to be happening on this one corner in Philly, but all these corners in Philadelphia that need it, and every other city in the country that needs it. So I'm asking everybody I possibly know if I should I take this job? Should I try to grow this organization, which became known as Back on My Feet? And everybody, including my mother, was, you know, take the job, Ann. Are you crazy? And that wasn't the answer I was looking for. I was looking for someone to like get inside of me and feel what I was feeling. Because if they would have felt that, they wouldn't have told me to take that job. So it's August 14th, and I'm supposed to start my Comcast job tomorrow. And the best way I've learned to describe this is I felt like a woman on her wedding night. There was this huge luncheon planned for me, all these people invited, and I've finally figured out that this is the absolute wrong guy, and I have to call and tell this person, this company, that I don't want to marry them. So it was an uncomfortable conversation, but you can't pick the moments that change your life. And this is where the faith and the spirituality part comes in. I don't use that word blessed. I've never used it before this year even. But this organization and this movement that I'm a part of, you know, I'm not that clever. This is so much bigger than me. And I'm so grateful and so blessed that I was chosen to be the messenger with this. It was an idea that was given to me. And it is my responsibility. It was my responsibility to do something with it. And that's when everything in my life started to make sense. All of that hatred, and it was hatred that I had from my mother, all of the disappointment that I had toward my father, all came together. Because if I didn't feel that, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have felt the way I felt to help these people. And so I know what it can be like when you're 16 and something bad happens or something going on in your life and you don't understand it. And you get angry and you get upset and you blame everybody, you blame God. But I'm telling you, there are reasons for it, and you have to be willing to search for them, be willing to feel them, and be willing to do something with them that's positive, and that you have to challenge yourself and to help other people. This is my passion. This is my purpose. And I really and truly believe that everybody has these gifts and these talents in them, and that if you really listen and pay attention to yourself and what someone's trying to tell you, extraordinary things can happen. We've built this world where so many people try to determine your priorities. I think about that moment of turning down this big corporate job, right? That's what we're supposed to be working toward. And I sat back and thought, someone else made these priorities. Someone else told me that that was important, that that's what I should be working for, that that's what defines success. And if you ask 100 different people what you should do with your life and your future, you're going to get 100 different answers. And I'm going to say it again, you need to listen to yourself, because this path that you think you should go on might be somebody else's. And if you can just, again, listen to what your heart and what your brain and what your gut is telling you, it's scary. Of course it's scary, but it's going to lead you down the right path. So again, I feel really blessed to be here for my first time in New Orleans and be here with all of you, because I didn't have faith and I didn't have anything guiding me 2 years ago, and now I do. And so I get why you're here. I get why you're up. I was walking around. Maybe some of you guys saw me. I was walking around and watching you dance and watching you, respond to the music, and I never had that. And I think it's a pretty beautiful thing. So whatever you're doing, it's working. Keep doing it, and God bless you.